What's up, you guys? It's Susie from HeyGrillHey.com and welcome to my backyard test kitchen. Today I'm trying a new recipe for the first time. So excited. I'm gonna be doing a smoked porchetta. That is a pork loin wrapped in pork belly, slow smoked, crispy skin. My mouth's already watering. Let's do it. So here's the deal. I've never made porchetta before, but if you're watching this video, that means that it must have turned out. Otherwise I would have scrapped the footage. Now this is a 12-pound loin-on piece of belly meat. I had to custom order this from my butcher. If that's not an option, your butcher can't get this for you, you can just buy a 6-pound boneless pork loin and approximately 6 pounds of belly with the skin on, and you can actually make your own roast with just those two individual pieces. So the first step is going to be trimming off some of this skin so that this guy wraps up all the way beautifully and we have exposed skin all the way around. I would say 2 inches of skin and fat off of the end right here. So that's what I'm gonna do first. I just realized I was an idiot and I cut the wrong end of my pork roast. Instead of taking the 2 inches of skin off of the belly side, I should have taken it off of the roast side. And since it's not gonna roll together unless I do, I'm gonna do that now. So I'm just gonna take my knife and take the 2 inches of skin off of the pork loin side. I'm also gonna take off a majority of the fat under here because I'm gonna have enough fat from the belly as it wraps together. Now we gotta do a little bit more prep work before we're ready to season. I'm gonna start on the skin since I'm already skin side up. What we gotta do here is make some holes. I'm gonna be using the end of a kebab skewer because I can get my thumb in there and it won't slide around. And you're just gonna go to town and stab little holes all the way around here. And this is gonna help dry the skin when we salt it later. It's also gonna help crisp the skin when we go to cook it tomorrow. So stab, stab, okay? Thank you.
Your hair's down and then it's up. Like, what happened?
What happened was I was stabbing all these holes and then I got sweaty.
And the wind's blowing.
And the wind's blowing. Now we're gonna flip it over, finish trimming it out so we can put in our filling. Now if you'll notice, this is not even all the way through, which means we're not gonna get a super cool spiral of all of these herbs and seasonings unless we butterfly this loin a little bit. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take my chef's knife, start it where the loin starts to get thicker from the belly and just cut a straight line across and open up this loin. By opening this up, we'll be able to get all of that seasoning all the way through the center of this pork loin. Now we have one last step for this belly, and the meat here and the fat can really be a little bit thick. We want this seasoning to be able to penetrate, so I'm gonna score about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep all the way across the belly in kind of a cross-hatch pattern so that we can really work that seasoning in there. So now we need to make our seasoning blend, and this is going to be very fennel forward, like most porchetta. I think it's the most prominent seasoning that you'll see here. It's kind of that black licorice earthy flavor. Also a lot of garlic, citrus. It's gonna be bomb. We're gonna start our porchetta seasoning with a dry rub blend. In a medium pan over medium heat, I toasted together a tablespoon of black peppercorns, a tablespoon of fennel seed, and a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and then I crushed it all up in my mortar and pestle. To that, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of coarse kosher salt, and then we're gonna get into our citrus. I have the zest of 1 orange, the zest of 1 lemon, then I have 6 cloves of grated garlic, a tablespoon of minced sage, a tablespoon of freshly minced rosemary, and last, a tablespoon of fresh minced fennel fronds. Fennel fronds.
What is fronds?
They're like the wispy greens at the top of the fennel bulb. This is gonna really reinforce the fennel flavor, but it's a lot brighter and lighter than like the earthier seeds that you get.
Never heard that word in my life.
2 tablespoons to a 1/4 cup of olive oil. I'm just gonna eyeball this. I kind of want to make a paste almost. Just gonna get in there and mix it up with my hands. So we're just gonna take our paste, put a glop right in the middle, and then smooth it all around with our hands. working this paste into all of those beautiful divots that we made into the belly and then in between the pork loin. All right, all I've got to do now is roll this guy up as tight as I possibly can and tie it with my butcher's twine. I'm gonna be tying about every inch across the length of our roast. I wanna keep it nice and tight and uniform in size. I just realized I was an idiot and I cut the wrong end of my pork roast. Dun, 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 dun. And as for the part of the belly that already has the skin off, it's gonna be fine, probably, and it'll be on the bottom. Usually when you see my recipes that come out on Thursdays, they're definitely recipes that have been tried, tested, and true a million times. And on Tuesdays, I just get to experiment a little bit more, which is fun for me. Looks just fine. Not even gonna notice that little bit of missing belly skin. And we're gonna tie it up so we can do our next step. I mean, I'm not sad about it for my first attempt. Might not win a porchetta competition, but the flavors in here, I feel like they're gonna be banging. I've got a big old baking sheet here, topped with a flat cooling rack. These are typically what you'd use to cool cookies. And we're just gonna take our porchetta roast, put it on the roasting rack, and then salt it all over. I'm just using a coarse kosher salt here, and the salt's gonna go on the entire exterior, and you can be pretty liberal because we are going to wipe off the excess. It helps release some of the moisture from the skin so that we can get a nice crispy exterior. Alrighty, happy with this. It's going to go uncovered into my refrigerator for the next 24 hours. Again, so the salt can work its magic on this skin. And then we're hitting the smoker tomorrow. We are back. Day 2. Our porchetta's been in the refrigerator for the last 24 hours. The salt has actually pulled moisture from the inside of the meat to the surface, liquefied the salt on the outside, and then most of it has been reabsorbed into the meat itself. I'm really happy with how this looks. I do have some paper towels, and I'm going to pat the entire surface of this dry and remove any of the extra salt crystals that haven't liquefied yet. Mostly they're just along the butcher's twine that we've tied on there, so they didn't have direct access to the meat. And then this bad boy is ready to go into our smoker. I have it preheating at 275 degrees. I want this skin to dry out while it smokes, so we're sticking with the pellet smoker. I'm gonna stick a thermometer deep into the center, one that I can monitor remotely. Because I've never cooked this before, it's my best estimate that this is gonna take about 20 minutes per pound. With a 12-pound roast, that puts us right around the 4-hour mark to get me to the 140 degrees that I'm looking for. So crossing my fingers, that's where we end up, but I'll keep you guys posted. Porchetta has been in for 4 hours and 15 minutes at this point. I'm feeling pretty awesome that my math was like on the nose. Deepest part of the porchetta right now is like 137, 138. All the other places are reading around 140 where I want it to be. So I'm actually gonna pull it off and tent it with foil before we prepare for our next step. The next step is that we wanna take this beautiful goldeny brown smoky skin and we wanna torch it so that it gets nice and crispy. And there are a couple of ways to do this. One would be to preheat your oven to 500 degrees, but I wanna do this all outside. So I'm actually gonna take all of that drippy, fatty, aluminum foil that I have under my drip tray, throw that away and turn up the heat on my pellet smoker to 500 degrees. And we're gonna do the roasting phase out here. But I don't wanna lose the temp that I've got in my roast. So I'm just gonna cover this guy with foil while I get the smoker up there in temperature. Grill is up to temp. Let's crisp the skin on this porchetta. Now, if I was doing this in an oven, I would put this on a baking tray. But since I'm doing it on the grill, we're going direct on the grill grates. I am working with really high temperatures and flames, so I'm gonna be super cautious about flare-ups. I do have a contingency plan. If it starts to flare up, I have an indirect side of my grill where I can slide it without the flames. In your oven, you're not gonna have to worry about flare-ups. Just keep it in a pan. And I would recommend rotating your roast every 5 minutes or so it gets nice and evenly crisp all the way around. I'll be doing the same thing on the grill. I'll be rolling it as it cooks. crazy. All right, closed it is. I puffed up like chicharrones because I dried it out so far with the smoker. Thank goodness for contingency plans. I had an indirect side of my grill, so when the flare-up started, just rotated it a little bit, closed the lid, and they went right out. Fire management's important skill. I need it to crisp up.
It's a delicate dance.
It is a dance. Yeah. All right. I think I'm gonna call it. I got all the crispiness on the skin that I want. This is a beast, you guys. I'd just like to welcome you all to today's episode of Let's See How This Turns Out. It's not super beautiful all the way around, but I have hopes that its insides are lovely. So let's cut her open and see what happens, yeah? How do we feel about this? I mean, for all the kind of wackiness on the outside, it looks great in there, doesn't it? That's a beautiful spiral.
Interesting.
I'm happy.
You haven't tasted it.
I already know it's gonna taste good. It's pork belly. Cut me a little slice. I love that we did the belly with the loin still attached because we get this beautiful spiral on the inside. So all of this is the belly meat, and then you get down to the loin and you still have that spiral action because we cut the loin in half. That is an absolutely gorgeous cross section. Now we get to get some yummy slices to eat. I'm gonna get a piece of his belly because that's what I love. And I'm also gonna come just tear this piece apart and cut a little bit of a section of the loin in the middle because I feel like it's easy to have delicious pork belly because it's so fatty. But if we got that loin right, that's gonna be the real treat. That is moist. I hate that word, I'm sorry. It's very juicy. I think the reason that it stayed so juicy is because it's wrapped in all of that pork belly, so fatty. And then we get all of these seasonings on the outside here. I'm tasting orange, I'm tasting fennel, I'm getting a tiny little kick from those red pepper flakes and the fresh peppercorns. This tastes like the holidays to me. Like this would be the perfect holiday roast. Okay, belly time. Oh my gosh, I love pork belly. It's so decadent. It's funky, it's fatty. The meat is so juicy. It's very tender. This whole thing is bomb.
Win?
Win. I'm gonna call this a backyard test kitchen win. I think this is totally one that you could try out at home. I would put this on maybe like the intermediate scale because you do have to do some small butchering on your own. You definitely have to have a good sense of heat management, but if you feel like a pretty confident outdoor griller and you want to give yourself a really delicious challenge, this is something to try. I pulled it off on my first time and I think it was absolutely delicious. I'll share the recipe with you guys, so if you want to try it at home, you can. And of course, if you do, take a photo. It's beautiful. Post it online, use the hashtag HeyGrillHey. That way I can see it and cheer you on your journey to becoming a backyard barbecue hero. See you next time.